Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring evil Naruto, also known as the White Lizard I believe, in charge of the forces of Skaven up against Mr. Ordello and his Greenskin horde. Should be a really fun game, and I'm pretty excited to check out this build. David the White Lizard often brings pretty off-meta Skaven builds. So for the front lines, we do have the cheap and cheerful Skaven slaves. These guys are here to die, absorb the charge, take the damage, and allow their more elite centre pocket of this build to really get in there, get the counter charge off, and do some decent damage. And for that centre pack, it looks like we have some clan rats with shields, just decent fellows all round. We also have some plague monks, damage dealing, frenzy, anti-infantry lunatics, who will be able to chew through the front line of the enemy very, very quickly. We also have Beric Dundarian's buddies, the clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, who not only have one of the most awesome names, they also have incredibly awesome and badass fire swords and fire shields. In the third line here, we do have some Eshin Triads, a unit I believe is horrifically underused. These guys are pretty damn awesome, kind of the anti-large, armor-piercing, and weeping blades, which is very powerful and potent overall, which does give minus 50% armor for 35 seconds, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, and of course they are stalked as well on top of that. Looks like on the other flank we do just simply have more clan rats, and then we have an absolute bucket ton of rat ogres in the back line here. Looks like 4 units overall. Actually 1, 2, nope, just the 3 units, my mistake. And then we have only one artillery piece here today, or artillery crew, the Avalanche Mortars, Regiment of Renowned Death Globe Mortars. Fantastic damage, and we'll certainly get to see what they can do today. We have an Assassin as well as Tretch Craventail, considered by most to be one of the worst lords in the game, but we know Tretch Craventail is truly OP, and hopefully David will prove this today. He's basically a tiny bit of a tank, and he's just there to not get assassinated, basically. We have a Plague Priest as well, of course, on top of this lovely mechanical design. Should be able to do some pretty decent crowd control, as well as having a Doom Wheel. So pretty fun build. I really like the idea of only going very limited with range to ensure you can protect it and get as much value as possible. Now for the Greenskins, we have Goblin Wolf Chariots spreading out on the left hand side, darting towards the enemy as quickly as possible. And on this right hand flank we have some Goblin Wolf Riders. In the main battle line we do have the 8 Peak Loonies, of course, coming in with their Fanatics, can do some fantastic work. And then Orc Boys and Goblins make up the rest of the front battle line. In the secondary line we do have Orc Biggins here to do a little bit better and kind of harder hitting damage, but apart from that it's a relatively fast and mobile core. We have Savage Orc Araboys for decent protection, but then it's Forest Goblin Spider Riders as well as Orc Boys, and I believe on this right hand flank we have Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers as well as some more Spider Riders indeed. Looks like we have a Night Goblin Shaman as well, coming with Vindictive Glare and Itchy Nuisance. And for a Lord, we do have Azag the Slaughterer, coming with a ton of spells here, which is surprising. So we have the Black Orc Big Boss on the right-hand side and Azag on the left. Coming in with Soul Blight, Doom and Darkness, Spirit Leech, and Aspect of the Dreadnought. And considering he has 2 casters, I think that's a little bit overcommitting there on the magic personally. We'll get to that a little bit more later, perhaps. Goblin Wolf Chariots are pushing through the front lines, already doing some pretty decent damage, but the Avalanche Mortars are unleashing their shots here, and they have this glorious spread, which is perfect for dealing with the mobs here. Orc Boys almost nearly forced off, and Orc Biggins in one volley, nearly down to half health. Crazy damage out of the gates, and up to 27 kills off the bat. Lovely counterplay as well, pushing the Rat Ogres to punish the Night Goblins, trying to keep them away from the key targets and their Fanatics. It looks like it does get them unleashed. Poor dwarfs are going to be getting swung around here through the clan rats, so I guess it's not, completely lost to them. We do have a summon of Plague Monks in the front line as well to block in the enemy engagement. And it looks like the Greenskins are going for a massive punch through the centre of the formation. Now this is a valid tactic. Against Skaven you don't always need to go very wide. You can just try and beat their centre pocket, push back and shut down their ranged troops. But Avalanche Mortars are destroying this back line. The Orc Biggins have been absolutely wrecked. 0 kills on them so far. Crazy value out of the gate. Now nice play of the Eshin Triads. Of course they are stalked. Managed to get a sneaky engagement on the Orc Boys as well as the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, helping the clan Vulcan Tail Slashers out immensely here. Rat Ogres are being played relatively defensively here, which is a good idea. Some of them being pushed in to plug the gaps, but they need to allow the Avalanche Mortars to disengage and start firing again into the back line, or the Savage Orc Araboys will start to add up in their damage. It looks like they're currently firing in at a mixture of Rat Ogres as well as this Plague Priest. A lovely Itchy Nuisance has gone down, as well as Azag's Ard Armour, trying to buff up this Greenskin Ram. Now, Tretch Craventail is surviving here in the middle, completely surrounded by Orc Boys and Goblins alike. But he's doing work, he's surviving, and that's what he's there for, simply not to die. And he's doing a good job of it so far. On the right hand side, Goblin Wolf Chariots, once again pinned in by Eshin Triads, are going down here quite quickly. Those guys certainly need to get out of here. And in comes the Skirmish Corps, putting a little bit of light pressure on. Goblin Wolf Riders do manage to hop on top of the Avalanche Mortars for a decent amount of time, but Rat Ogres were here to assist, drive those guys back, and now there's a menacing Plague Priest. And I'm a big fan of how this Skaven force is being used here. There's so many targets for the Orc Araboys and Aracruz in general to put down. You have the Plague Priest as well as the Doomwheel and so many Rat Ogres, and they're just getting absolutely handled here. Orc War Boys as well as the Night Goblin in the centre pocket are running for the hills, abandoning Azag the Slaughterer. We do have Bob here fighting strong, but he is going toe-to-toe with an assassin who is pretty scary in his own right. Doomwheel is now going to be reaving in the back lines, pushing through some of his own troops before starting to shut down the Savage Orc Araboys. Now these bad boys are a bit better in combat than their basic Orc and Goblin brethrens, but still it's a terrifying Doomwheel. It's just going to run them over and quite comfortably dispatch them. And the balance power going pretty heavily in the favour of Skaven here. Avalanche Mortars once again have been shut down, this time by Forest Goblin Spider Riders. But the Avalanche Mortars at this point, 105 kills is very impressive stuff. Bob has been forced back by the Plague Priest, who has eaten a Spirit Leech for his troubles, but forcing away Bob is certainly going to help break the backbone of this Greenskin force. Looks like the war hasn't been popped just yet, unless I might have missed it there while looking at some other details, but Forest Goblin Spider Archers are now getting consistent, decent fighting on top of the Plague Priest. We're going to see another summon attempting to pin in Azag here, which is going to work relatively well, though Clan Rats don't have the best mass, and Azag is still a pretty big lad all round. Looks like he's going to be able to push out and run to relative safety. But apart from that, it looks like all the chariots are done for, and a huge horde of Greenskins are fleeing the field. A lot of them may rally, although it looks like the Night Goblin Shaman has shattered, and a lot of the Greenskin forces are now running for good. Bob, however, he's returning, the Black Orc Big Boss running back in, and the Doomwheel can do some effective cycle charging against him. He has popped all his buffs and he's going after the terrifying contraption, but it's got far more pace than him, and it's going to simply chuckle and zoom away to run over some Savage Orc Araboys who cannot protect themselves. Rat Ogres are eventually getting beat down kind of after a huge amount of damage and work they've done in all game, but all that's left here for the Greenskins is some Night Goblins. Eshin Triads are still here and healthy, and I think this is pretty much over. It looks like the Assassin has managed to pop onto Azag as well, dropping a fat Assassin's trophies down on him, and he's trying to force his way through the crowd of people, those Weeping Blades, to do some pretty decent damage. Azag actually taking on toe-to-toe, doing some okay work himself, but at the end of the day, he still is a caster lord, and doesn't want to be involved in too much combat. You see in the distance, all the Skaven are starting to flood back here as well. Azag is popping Foe Seeker and running for the hills once more, but it is looking pretty bleak. In the distance, Black Orc Big Boss has pretty much had enough of getting pushed over by Clan Rats and the Doomwheel, and is starting to wave, although it looks like he possibly might be rallying for a bit of a second wind here. As you see, Forest Goblin Spider Eyes have been shattered once more. There is so many Skaven left on the field, and it looks like the Avalanche Mortars, up to 111 kills, very potent and deadly in the early phases here, are going to be saved as well, as Skaven Slaves, Eshin Triads, and Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers rally to them, pushing back the last of the 8 Peak Loons here, who does go down in a very dishonourable fashion by collapsing in a kind of over-dramatic footballer's dive. And the Forest Goblin Rider Archers are pushed back as well, allowing the Avalanche Mortars, who still have half of their ammunition, to unleash some shots at the rallying Greenskins and crush any hope of a revival. As you can see, the Savage Orc Araboys simply going to break to one volley, and then all mortars can switch targets to the next unit, and so on, and slowly and systematically pick them apart here. Bob trying his best, going toe-to-toe with the Doomwheel, but this is a problem for all foot characters in general. They do just kind of get run over by nasty things such as the Doomwheel. Bob, desperately trying to trace, has popped Heroic Killing Blow. The Doomwheel simply going to turn around and run him into the dirt. And a Pyrrhic victory for the Skaven, but a very dominant victory as well, I think. I don't think it was ever in too much doubt after that initial kind of hammer punch of the Greenskin forces started to falter and fall apart. So very well played to the White Lizard, or David the White Lizard, also known as Evil Naruto here, and well played to Mr. Ordello as well. It was certainly a decent effort, pulling it all the way to a Pyrrhic victory. I hope you guys did enjoy that. Remember to give a big old thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel for more Total War Warhammer content. Now, with some pretty interesting unit choices by both factions overall, really. I'm a massive fan here of this Skaven pick. Tretch is a little bit of a meme. He's considered very, very poor, probably one of the worst lords in the game. I'd definitely say top 5 worst lords. And he doesn't really do too much, 10 kills, but he doesn't die. That's kind of his only benefit. In a similar way that Tic-Tac-Toe just kind of flies around for the Lizardmen and just tries not to die. Tretch, not going to do any damage, but he is invisible to start with. Actually, no, I don't think he has Stalk. I, for some reason, used to think he did. But he's pretty tanky, at least for Skaven. He was in the midst of all the enemy, and he didn't break. He held the line, and, you know, did his job overall, especially supported by an assassin, can do some pretty decent work. However, what I like most about this build is that it's not relying too much on long-range artillery, especially up against the Greenskins, but simply going nice and simple, one avalanche mortar. You know it can tear apart the Greenskin forces as long as you can protect it, and invest in heavily in triple rat ogres for protection, as well as a doom wall and plague furnace. All combined gives such an overload of potential threats that the Greenskins really struggle to shut them down. Do you shoot into the plague priests and allow the doom wall and mortars to overrun your archers? You know, it's those kind of questions where you eventually get pulled down. Also, nice use of including 1 or 2 elite infantry units like plague monks to really help clear out the chaff. As for Mr. Ordello, as I said during the battle, it is generally a viable tactic to form your force into one big old fist and punch through that centre pocket, and he did do it. He broke through the centre, but because there was only the avalanche mortars to stop all of this skirmish, and all of these chariots didn't really have any good targets apart from 1 unit of mortars, which were protected by so many rat ogres who were good at countering all the skirmish units. So it was, unfortunately for Mr. Ordello here, a bit of a kind of game not necessarily won by the army selections, but it certainly put him on the back foot, and his battle plan needed to change to deal with that, try and pull apart the Skaven forces a little bit more, whilst of course still pressuring those avalanche mortars. Anyway guys, hope you did enjoy. If you want to see your replays up on the channel, feel free to send them to me via my Discord. There's a link just down below in the description, as well as other ways to support the channel. Until next time guys, peace, and as always, stay awesome.